Welcome to the weekly MarTech Brain Tap, weekly insights from Marketo Consultants in New York. I'm Inga Romanov.
And I'm Robert Vo.
All right, and today we have a special guest. Boris Bauer and I actually know each other for a few years. He started Tempo Strategic, which is a digital agency that's harnessing technology to master business growth through evidence-based marketing. Every time I speak with Boris, I'm left full of insights and I'm inspired because Boris actually, and I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit as well, but it's just so interesting how you think of technologies, how you think of leveraging them, how you actually stay a little bit ahead of the trends. And even though you might be in a traditional space of a digital agency, but how innovative you are about combining all these agencies to drive the growth. Do you want to say a couple of words about yourself?
Sure. Good morning. That sounded really nice. Keep going. Thank you for the flattering comments. I think obviously anybody that is in marketing right now and is a decision maker, is very well aware of the incredible pace that we're having. The MarTech stack is ever getting more complex. And the decision makers in marketing, they're often already working, offline and online, and they have, really working hard, typically more 60 and 70 hours a week. And, there's so many new platforms being added. And we still have in my opinion, very siloed approach in marketing. So those decision makers, they get the end of the month, they get all this automated PDF reports that everybody dumps on them. And, here are those people that are extremely hardworking, and, nobody really kind of consolidates all the reporting and the insight, and then basically sits down with them and says, okay, here's our 40-page of PDF reports. We looked at this, and this is what it means to you. This is the decisions you need to make.
Yep.
These are the actionable insights, and putting it all together. And I think at the same time, marketing is often under fire because, sales, the sales teams, which are in the front trenches, which see everything and feel everything, or they should, that marketing is doing, and it often reflects in their salary and the bonus at the end of the year. They often really don't or can't make really the connections to all the fancy stuff that marketing is doing. Why are they getting so much of the budget? And I think when marketers succeed bringing everybody to the table, and that includes sales, and show sales how our initiatives impact the deals that they're trying to close, then we're a huge step further in working together. But I think there's clearly still many gaps there.
Yeah.
And that is what we're trying to fill in.
I'm going to ask you a question later, because in our last conversation here in the office, you mentioned something that really piqued my interest about how marketing works with sales. But I wanted to also ask you, how do you not just hear about the technologies? I actually enjoy reading your blog as well. How do you sort of process that? How do you internalize that? And how do you make decisions on what's right, how to use it? It seems that you always I ask you about a technology, how to use it, and you have a very clear understanding of how it works, but have a unique way to apply it. How do you keep up with the MarTech stack and constant innovations in the space?
Well, I think, nothing that we do or I particularly do is unique. Everybody has the same tools to their availability. And when people hire my agency and we start working with a client, what they're paying me for is for my expertise. And they're paying me, I believe, in a nutshell, for keeping the tab on what's going on, what's new, what should they go after, and being able to identify holes in their entire approach. And say, okay, here's where you have a gap in skill maybe, or, this is where you don't utilize all the data that you have, or this is what you could do with your CRM. And so it's part of my job to to constantly, keep up on the blogs. Before we started this recording, we talked about this marketing blog that I'm listening to, which is really good, perpetual traffic. They go in depth, for example, about Facebook. We're doing more and more with Facebook as they increase the capabilities. We have a very good relationship with LinkedIn, which we have several clients where for the first time, we're working actually with a PR agency partner, and what we're doing is we're working with their clients together to directly help their sales team and their C-level leadership team to approach and let's say prime some of their audiences that they want to talk to close the deal. And it's funny because this is paid marketing. And we're using, this paid channel and the capabilities that LinkedIn have to directly approach certain companies to make sure that they have seen certain content, research, white papers that put, our client in a situation that when they walk in the door, they go like, yeah, I've heard about this lately. Most people won't remember where, but they would certainly have heard about them. And it's my job. Like I recently sat together with a company that the owner of a company that does all of our programmatic, and we basically spend an afternoon over drinks and cigars discussing everything that's new in programmatic right now. Everything that's coming up.
That's the real secret.
Cigars and drinks.
Exactly.
Everything, like we literally sat for I think it was 2.5 hours, and I said, okay, give me everything that's new, what's happening, anything that I should, bring in to my clients. Sometimes we find little nuggets ourselves, like Quora.com, the question and answer platform that sort of replaced Yahoo Answers. Just 2 months ago, did open up a self-serve advertising platform. And, we kind of looked into it. We looked at the requirements, and we said, look, there's actually one client of us who always gets fairly high quality, not a lot, but fairly high quality traffic from Quora because they've answered a couple of questions. Let's run a test. And we're spending not a lot of money. And Quora right now is driving as many conversions on the website for signing up, sharing email address as Google natural search with a very fraction of the traffic, and we're paying 10 cents per lead. And,
incredible.
It's incredible. and I told my client, I said, look, this is probably because nobody else is kind of playing this right now. This is going to get as soon the second people figure out this is, how well this works with Quora, it's going to get a lot more crowded and probably more expensive.
Same
but
as
for now,
with Facebook. Exactly. Yeah.
And then you can still always look hopefully you have a good metric established. What's a lifetime value of a client is and how much you're willing to pay for that lead. If somebody shares an email address and has qualifiers that make him a potential good client, and once you have that, we always test for our clients, always different things, different platforms. That's part of our job.
That's so interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Quick question for you. Could you talk a little bit about the natural search again? Because I know we talked a little bit about that when you were here in the office, but I want our audience to kind of get a little insight, but also what are your thoughts on, how many years or months or weeks or whatever we're talking about when you think people will start really, leveraging that or really get a sense of how that works and take advantage of it?
Well, so natural search is obviously, still one of the biggest drivers to anybody's website. That is for the vast majority. And, when you rank well and you have valuable content that you deliver for your clients, it's probably also the cheapest way of getting leads. Right. Paid has the big advantage that we can assign a budget. We determine how much we want to spend. We turn the button. It's a turnkey, instant solution. Search takes a long time, but in the end, it's, I think, by far the highest quality indicator for your positioning as a company. Again, this is about, people researching certain topics and you being on the first page of Google communicates a certain authority in your field and expertise. So you will get a lot of business from that. So one thing that we do, I think, many people are still stuck in the old form of search, where it's like, oh, I want to rank for this keyword. Obviously that doesn't work anymore. This is really understanding your audience, and it's very classic sales, right? You have your sales funnel: awareness, interest, consideration, intent, action, right? And for each of our marketing tools, there is some overlap somewhere, but in general, there is, it's a pretty much if you want to drive awareness and interest, search is definitely something else. Once people have come to your website and they're in the consideration and intent phase, email marketing automation is clearly something that is the workhorse here, but it's always surprising to me how people just want to focus on the, there is best practices in on-site optimization, and there is certainly, things to be done, but this is pretty basic, right? But when we talk to clients and we say, look, have you really worked out your main buyer personas? What are those people that are buying from you? Let's get sales to come in and explain to me, the people that make the decisions, for example, is it always a decision maker, or may it be also procurement that at some point comes in and does some research? So you need to kind of have that mapped out a little bit, and then say, okay, what are those people's needs? How can we really help them? We rarely focus on keyword phrases. We're saying, okay, how can we deliver value content to them? Out of that, you develop your publishing calendar, you discuss with all teams, and that should inform any channel from email marketing to pay-per-click to display, what those topics are, what we want to communicate. And so we do usually start with any client, if they have, a more comprehensive marketing budget, we start out with an audit where we figure out exactly what is your page doing well for, who are your real competitors, why do your competitors rank, and what do you have to do in building content to kind of performance and outperform that. And that drives a lot of that conversation. And then usually once you get the clients really involved in that very classic user experience, creating a persona, right? Creating the top 3-5 personas that we want to service, and they start realizing how complex it gets and how it informs every single inch of their marketing initiatives and sales strategy. Then everybody usually gets really on board and very excited quickly.
Right. Well, what's the from your experience, what's the percentage of marketing and sales teams that actually get that right? Sort of developing the personas, or do you always go in when they don't know how to do it? What's the?
I think in general, what I find is that sales and marketing often have the knowledge, but it's not really written down and shared, right? It's you can talk, you can bring them all to the table and you talk. I talk to sales, and the salespeople can tell me exactly, okay, here's a typical scenario, this or that, and this and that. And marketing, they often come more from a branding, communications message. And they have also, but once you bring them all together and say, okay, can we just please put take an image, and put it on a piece of paper, give that person a name, and let's just look up a template for persona creation online and fill in, and then decide, okay, where are the overlaps of the personas, what they need, what do they need when they first become aware that they have a problem, what information they need when they're getting interested in solving it, or when they start considering you as a platform. And then, then you get everybody kind of in alignment across all the different channels, marketing and sales. And then, as you know, since you're working in marketing automation, the holy grail is when you have a professional platform like Marketo that feeds into Salesforce, and the salesperson sit there and they log in the morning, and they see all of a sudden somebody that they're working with, and they can see, wow, Boris has been to the website like 5 times. He looked at this content. He looked at that content. He opened up my email. He downloaded the white paper. He scored now 100 points. So I should give him a call right now. He's ready. He's primed.
But we should invite him out for cigars and drinks. So see if we close that deal. Right. That's
and I think that's kind of like the holy grail, because once a sales team can see how our marketing efforts directly impact the deals that they're trying to close, the business that they're trying to grow, they're all on board, always. I've never had anybody come back going like, nah, doesn't work for me.
Right. Yeah. No, that's very interesting, because like Inga and I talk a lot about, sort of the how sales and marketing is fairly siloed. I mean, a high percentage of the companies that I've worked with, consulted with, typically I'm in the room mainly with the marketers, of course, because when I was at Marketo, that was sort of our key audience, right? But I feel from a success perspective, when we do involve the sales team at the very beginning, right? And that's like you were mentioning, right? That's kind of a challenge for a lot of organizations right now, right? But hopefully, hopefully they're kind of turning the page on that, turning the corner on that, and just really realizing that if they work together, they're actually working together for the company, right?
Right. And so actually, as a small side note, so our name Tempo. Right. That is how we came up, because it's all finding the right beat and the right rhythm and creating harmony. It's like you can't have an orchestra play like, a beautiful piece of music if you don't have a conductor and they don't play all together. Right. And what all of those efforts are is to kind of like get everybody, that is part of that big orchestra that makes up the company, and that is a stakeholder in the sales process and marketing process. Get them all together and make sure that you kind of like come to an orchestrated harmony that plays from A to Z, and come through, where everybody knows exactly when to start, when to stop, how fast to play, there's trade shows that we support. There's also so much like offline you can do, event registration, trade shows, proprietary research that you can share. I mean, there's so much where like, many departments can chime in and really work together. And that's, I think, still one of the big things that's missing.
Right. Do you find that difficult to convince organizations to kind of, be the orchestra, to actually act like an orchestra, or is it, from your success stories?
That's always kind of like our ideal thinking, but I think as an agency / consultant, our goal is to help the clients, and so like it depends really on the clients, like what their gaps are. It depends what their budget is, and secondly, if like, okay, let's make it like, let's have a conversation and figure out exactly where like the gaps in his skill set in-house, right? And then there has to be a discussion. Okay, do you want to bring this in-house at a sooner point, or you want to kind of like outsource that until you see the ROI on it, and then make the decision. But in general, we are extremely flexible, because our goal is to make it easier to the client. So we fill in as much or as little as they want, It doesn't help if we say, no, we got to be the main guy in the conductor, and if we are not in charge of that, then it's not going to happen, Sometimes they, very often they have like extremely smart marketers that are just as on top of everything as I am, and they say, no, look, this is my game, but I really have, like, I need more help with, like, marketing automation, or somebody just looking at the analytics and keeping tab of all of this. Or maybe they say, like, we have a great content team. We have our email strategy, but, some of the paid stuff, would you guys work with the rest of the team just to do a LinkedIn strategy, or maybe LinkedIn and pay-per-click or something like this, And we happily fill in where the client needs us, because I think the big time of the agency of record, where you get to do everything by default, and can charge for it is over.
Got
we
it.
have to be all a little more agile and flexible in our roles.
Right. Yeah, and then we kind of do the same. And there's sometimes, of course, internal politics that kind of help or not help, but hinder, sort of our reach, across the aisle, if you will. Right. But that's always kind of an interesting challenge, at least from my perspective. But if I could go back to sort of the natural search look, because I'm a little fascinated about that since you brought it up at our our office the other week or month or what have you. From a platform perspective, I know I think we talked a little bit about Google, right? But are you seeing the same like on Facebook or LinkedIn or is it just across the board, or that being applied and people actually doing natural search and or maybe marketers leveraging natural search and really reaping rewards from that?
It's there's definitely sort of like a big struggle going on right now. I think the big platforms, even Amazon. Like for example, Amazon now, I can buy Amazon purchase data, right, on everything. So I can say, show me everybody that in the last 2 years has bought books and audiobooks and paid for any kind of content that is related to getting an MBA, right, or further, executive education. And then I can get that data and their IDs and overlay that was programmatic on display, right? So like, it's interesting because even Amazon, that there was never so like a big player in like, okay, like we help you market, now come like, wow, we have like 20 years of data on like purchase behavior. This is really useful information. LinkedIn certainly has ramped up, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. There were a lot of restrictions on budget-wise, and they certainly ramping up, the services they offer, the quality of service, and you can do it at a lower price. You don't have to spend a minimum of $20,000 for a quarter or whatever. And Facebook as well. And now the latest reaction was that Google, in the next version of Chrome, which is like the biggest browser, they say we're going to have a pre-built ad blocker inbuilt in, right? So you can see where this is going. Like they're all getting, there's a big phase right now where it's really like going to go like who is going to be dominating the market. And clearly, if Google would do an ad blocker that filter, for example, out all Facebook ads, because Facebook ads go way beyond just the Facebook property, and obviously there would be a huge lawsuit. This is not going to happen. And so at the same time, like, Google is this monopoly that has all this information because, we all have our Androids and, in theory, and use Google Maps, and it's all like sort of like more and more an audio-driven natural speech pattern search, So at the same time, I see our clients always struggle to say like, hey, we need more. Let's focus more on the creating content. And, the second you start to write stuff, every word is like, I just talked yesterday to somebody about this. Every word, once it's written down, has to be turned 3 times. And people get so stressed out. And then the outcome is that like one blog post every 3 or 4 weeks, right? Which is certainly, in most cases, not enough. And but yet at the same time, you can take any expert and let them ramble. And it doesn't really matter whether it's my dentist who I'm working with, just to make sure that the root canal is always in top shape. He can talk for hours about his expertise, dentistry. He teaches at Columbia, so he can talk for hours. Almost every of my clients that I talk to, they can talk for hours. You just record it, get a transcript. There's so much content you get out of it. Google announced for the first time they're going to this year, I think.
It sounds like we need to sign them up for our podcast so they could talk.
Yeah. Well, we certainly should get a transcript of it, edit it a little bit and put it on your website because, 5 minutes of conversation, it's like 3,000 words. Try to write a 3,000-word blog post. And Google said now for the first time they're going to make their rankings based on the mobile index. So for the first time, websites are not going to be evaluated or the content, what the desktop version of the website shows, but the mobile version. Think about how many websites you still, at this day and time, you look at, websites and they have like sort of like a smaller version of the desktop website, The vast majority of my clients now see 60-70% of their traffic coming from either mobile or tablet. So websites that we build, we start with the mobile version.
Yeah.
What is the experience on the mobile? Because that's 65% of your traffic, and I think that changes everything.
Got it.
So
here's a question for you, just because I know we're coming close here to the end. We got a few minutes left, but question for you: do you have like a unique story or customer experience that was unanticipated by, when you went in, you didn't anticipate sort of the outcome, but the outcome was like pretty amazing that you thought like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. Any experience like that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I mean, the latest big one was Quora, what I mentioned before. It's a client that I've been working with for years and years, and he started off with having a website that was fairly limited in traffic, and over the last few years, we initially started just kind of like doing like very straightforward on-site optimization, and we did a new website for them, and now they have like about 20,000 uniques a month, and his business is thriving, and they specialize in incorporating non-U.S. residents or citizens. So if you're a company from the UK or you're a company from Australia or Turkey or God knows what, and you want to start a U.S. business, what is in there? So not for just like I want to have a visa so I can come in, but actually starting a business, and that's his specialty. And it's a very, very mature market, and we tested Quora, and it's wild, and we're looking at this and go like, wow, we're paying 10 cents a minute, and literally every single person that comes like downloaded the ebook and kind of like started engaging with sales in the chat. They do a 24-hour chat system that they have, and it feeds straight into Salesforce, and then email goes out, and it's I see the business grow, and we bleed with the client when the business doesn't grow, and it makes me very happy to have clients that where you can see the impact like that direct.
That's amazing. So it sounds like sort of a little golden nugget that not a lot of people have tapped into yet that you were able to find. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So like it's another story when it comes to paid. So one of our clients is Yale School of Management. We work with them quite a bit since a few years. And at some point we were running some tests, we call it prospecting, where we work with our programmatic partner and say, okay, let's try something out, any ideas, what's going on. And we found some inventory of a company that used to be, what are they called, Right Media, I think it was, that got acquired by Yahoo. But for some reason they hadn't turned off their inventory. They hadn't been fully gone over to Yahoo, and it was basically running ads in the Yahoo inbox. So if you have a Yahoo email address inbox, right? And we started testing it, and it was like somebody opened up the floodgates. It was amazing. And we just like, and I think that's where marketers also have to be nimble. Once we had a proof of concept, high quality leads at a really good price, we shifted a lot of the budget over there, and we really got it to a point that we know we have hit everybody that qualifies, for a certain amount of time, and then also Yahoo took the inventory over and got more expensive, and we then started trying out something new, but being that agile and being able to test, find something that works, that nugget, right, and quickly talk to the client, shift the budget over, and monetize it as much as you can for the client. That was a great story, and we've been working with them for a while, and we keep finding good good new sources of driving very high qualified lead for. It's an MBA. It's a $165,000 product. You don't sell them too easily.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Robert is sending smoke signals here. I know we're about to wrap up. Thank you so much. I'm listening to this. I'm writing down. I'm like, Boris has been in this for more than 15 years, created all kinds of campaigns. And your method was, we had a conversation and drinks. And then I tested, and you talked about that. You didn't have a hard answer. This is how you do it. Here's the recipe, and it seems like anymore, just like you said, being agile and nimble is really important. Not only because things change all the time, but also you kind of have to find that sweet spot for your brand. So
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. It's been fantastic, So we'll close off. Any final comments before we jump off?
Always keep testing.
Yeah, you said that many times today. So,
So did Ramos. If you go back to our Ramos, right? He did a lot of testing, looking at results to understand. So we obviously see a pattern here. It's just a question of like the marketers really doing a lot of the testing and reviewing the analytics, right, after the test.
Yeah, that's where MarTech comes in.
Sometimes you maybe get a fantastic click-through rate, but you don't get the leads. You need to figure out like where's the disconnect. Is it because people clicking by accident on it, or typically if people interact with an ad, they show intent, right? So they get to the landing page, and somehow they don't drop off. Though there's a lot of things. If you get the clicks, they clearly show intent. If they're not converting, there's something wrong with the landing page. There's something wrong with the disconnect between the ad and the landing page, or the content that is on the landing page. And there you have your tests, luckily metrics help us to, solve a lot of that problem.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's where MarTech comes in. It gives that ability to measure, which then you can modify and optimize constantly.
Exactly.
All right. Well, it's been a great conversation. Thank you again. If you guys would like to
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, if you'd like to connect with Boris, go to tempostrategic.com, tempo, just like a music. And if you have any questions or would like to join our podcast in the future, text your email at 646-863-5601. Thank you for joining the weekly MarTech Brain Tap. And I can't talk. Ha, ha, ha. All right, let me turn off the conference.
These streets will make you